Let's now turn to William C. Roden of The Undefeated, and Bill writes on this latest incident and the deeper meaning. He has a piece up currently we commend it to you at theundefeated.com. All right, Bill, this seems a little different. We've seen verbal warfare before. What is the real world, to your mind, the real world impact of this?
The fact that somebody from Iran, I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah, says it all, I know.
But, that's I mean, really, that's great. But I think there are my couple of thoughts. Number one, we're in the midst, I think, of a rise of African American athletes against this sort of oppressive control of owners, particularly in the National Football League. I think this season coming up. So I'm glad that LeBron set the tone, because this is going to be a very intriguing season in the National Football League. And LeBron set that tone, and that this season is going to be about resistance. It's going to be about black athletes and the white athletes who support them standing up against power, whether it's the president, but more specifically, whether it's the owners of their particular team and the commissioner. So I'm glad that LeBron set the tone. I think sort of on a social media basis, we talked about this, I think that LeBron made a conscious decision that he was going to poke the president. Remember, he introduced this idea and dragged the president in it, knowing that once you poke this guy, I mean, he's a social media animal. And so once the quickest way for any of us to engage and build a social media platform is to engage POTUS 45, because he's going to respond, and it's going to be this firefight.
But on matters of policy, though. So when the president responds, and it gets ugly as you look through the historical context of this, impugning a black man's intelligence, we're walking down a road that is full of ugly symbolism and realities from the past.
Well, here's the thing, and we know that, we know that LeBron James is intelligent. We know that Don Lemon is one of the most intelligent and popular hosts on television. So at some point, I'm glad LeBron, punched him in the mouth and should, but sometimes you don't validate things that are ridiculous. I mean, sort of like you had Terrell Owens decided not to go to the Hall of Fame because he doesn't believe in what that represents, and he said, I'm just not going to go. I'm just not going to validate it. I'm not going to throw logs on that fire. So I know what you're saying, and I'm glad that there's this fight, but I personally don't. When somebody is not really worthy of my even engaging them, I simply don't engage them. But in this atmosphere, that's sort of the norm, that you have to go back. You got to say something. You got to go back and forth.
Part of the dialogue of the past weekend, we've seen Dak Prescott take, which among the fraternity of NFL players, particularly black players, might be an unpopular position, saying, I don't believe you should protest during the national anthem, and for his troubles apparently related, a mural of his depicting him has been defaced in Dallas. We've seen Randy Moss with his appearance at the Hall of Fame, not verbally, but very strategically wear a necktie with the names of African Americans. So we see that there are various ways to instigate social and viral dialogue here.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways to resist, and I think sometimes I got caught up into it too. You could say, Malcolm Jenkins shouldn't take the NFL money and Kaepernick was right. Well, you know what? If you look at the history of the civil rights movement and our survival in this country, there's so many different approaches to resistance. There's the raising your fist and protesting. There's Malcolm Jenkins taking money to do things in the community. There's Prescott, and he says what he says. That's one way.
It celebrates the freedom of speech.
I think that we, particularly as African Americans, we have to understand that there are a lot of ways to cut the pie. I think all I always ask is just don't sell me out.
Exactly, and your word for the fall ahead is resistance. Bill Roden, read him at The Undefeated.